Hey everyone, I am so glad to be with you today. I am Dr. Pavani Mori from Wellcelium, and I am here today with one of my favorite humans on the planet, TT Baum. Hi, TT.
Hi, Pavani.
And TT and I are friends and collaborators, and I have so much professional respect for this human. TT is a sacred intimate, a certified bondage practitioner, and a facilitator of erotic wellness, both with individuals, couples, groups. He's also a performance artist in the erotic arts and just a really fantastic um, curator of the erotic. So happy to be speaking with you. And we're going to be talking today about performing Eros. So,
Mhm.
PT, what I want to start by asking you is I have a lot of clients who come to me and they say things like, when I'm in bed, I feel like I'm performing. I want to feel authentic. And talk to me a little bit about the difference between being performative like that and inhabiting an erotic performance.
Mm. Um, so I definitely resonate. I think that one of the things that we all struggle with is being performative, right? It's something that I also hear a lot of is like, I feel like I'm performing. I feel like I'm acting. I feel like I'm not present in the room when I'm engaging erotically with a partner. It's funny that this usually happens with somebody else present, right? It's not, oftentimes people aren't complaining about performative when they're alone and they're engaging in self-pleasure. And I think for me, uh, there's a slight difference in those two words, performative and performing, right? We don't call it, in my background as a performance artist, we don't call it performative art. We call it performance art because you're using that vehicle as your medium. And it's imbued or inspired by or filled with uh, some authentic concept through which performance is like the only means to express it. So when we're being performative, we're actually oftentimes taking a script or taking an old idea or taking an idea of what our partners want and trying to squeeze ourselves into a way of being that doesn't fit with who we are authentically, particularly from our erotic space. So we find ourselves engaging in behaviors or showing up for things that don't necessarily feel pleasurable or playful or exciting to us. Um, when I'm talking about performing my Eros, when I'm talking about performance as a means or a vehicle uh, uh, to explore my erotic body, mostly what I'm talking about is taking this kind of playful action as another toy in my toy chest to enhance my arousal. And it comes from a place inside of me that is authentic. So I'm not performing something that doesn't feel good to me. I'm not performing something that I think will get the most attention. I'm performing something because I'm getting pleasure from it. So it's coming from inside here, and I'm really deeply listening to what is going on inside my own body and moving from that place. Does that does that make a
Yeah,
sense at all,
that's
like
a
the difference between those two things?
yeah super helpful distinction between being performative and really inhabiting what feels real and what feels good to you and allowing that to come out is what I'm hearing, allowing it
Mm-hmm.
to be witnessed. Yeah. Um, well, I'm curious when you say performing Eros, I feel like you touched on it a little bit, what it means to you. But what does that mean in a bigger context? What does that mean to perform one's Eros?
For me, so when I first started using that term, it was a way for me to engage with my clients primarily in a way that allowed them to step outside of themselves and all of their hang-ups around whatever it was that was coming up for them erotically, and maybe inhabit what initially felt like a character, but it was coming from this authentic place, right? We would go through this list of desires or archetypes of like, if I had an ideal of who I wanted to be sexually, it would look like this. Or if I wanted to explore this particular thing erotically, it would look like this. And then we would work out, or we have worked out, ways in which they can move into that space and own it, right? So that it quickly goes from performing into, wow, this is actually a way that I want to be erotically in my body and sexually in the world. And it almost becomes a gift that you give to your partner or to the person who you're engaging with sexually, who you're playing with, that invites their arousal into the room in a bigger way and turns them on in a bigger way and gives them an opportunity to also meet you in that play space. And then you get this really sweet dynamic of back and forth, but you're always present in the room. You're not out here doing something because you have all these layers of narrative or story keeping you away from your own experience.
It makes sense to me. And it also sounds like it's a way to discover new parts of your sexuality. Like, I'm just thinking about when we were kids, we used to play pretend, right? To try on different roles or try on different aspects of like, what would it be like if I was always the teacher, right? Like, what would it be like if I was the teacher? What would it be like if I was the dad, right? To pretend and it wasn't that it wasn't real, but it was being able to inhabit something that maybe wasn't mine or wasn't mine yet, and to try it on and experiment with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I want to the thing that I want to add to that is once it's a notion in your head of something that feels attractive to you or something that feels like a desire that you want to explore, it's already yours. The performance is just a vehicle to give you permission to play around with it and see how it becomes more yours from your deep root and belly space.
I like it. Sorry, I was muted. I like it. It gives you a practice opportunity is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I want to talk with you a little bit about, you use the language penetrative and receptive energies, and you also use the language of exhibitionist and voyeur. And I know that those are, I'm just wanting to see how you use those and why those words matter.
Yeah, so in my training, in my tradition, we talk about the subtle energy body in a bunch of different ways. And one of those is penetrative and receptive. And when I'm talking about those two aspects, so I mean, they're all aspects of the same energy that we the same subtle energy body that we all kind of carry around with us, whether we're aware of it or not. And if you start paying attention to it, you'll notice when you are exercising or capitalizing on, I don't like that word, when you're inhabiting your penetrative energy and when you're inhabiting your receptive energy. And they live in different places in the body, and for every person it's different. So think of a time when you just felt big and shiny and like you were taking up space and you didn't need anybody's permission, and you felt really attractive or beautiful to yourself, and there was so much confidence and energy radiating from you, and people notice that. And it's not, when I'm talking about penetrative, I'm not talking about like sledgehammer or like a violent act of penetration. What I'm talking about is like more of a slow infusion of invitation for others to see my shine and use that as kind of like a flame of a candle to light their own candle a little bit. So that's how I feel penetrative energy in my body often, is it feels shiny and fluttery and inviting to other people. It feels attractive, right? It's that person that you see who has that thing that you want, and you're like, oh wow, what is there? Oh, how did they get there? You know? And when I'm talking about receptive energy, the first thing that comes to mind is, and we've all been in spaces like this, or at least most of us have, when we're able to like sit really quietly and deeply listen to another person and take in everything that they have to say and pay attention to their body language, or when we're with a lover and we allow their, you know, when you're in that sweet spot of engaging erotically with somebody else, and it feels like there's this moment when your two bodies become one body, and that's your receptive energy opening itself up and being vulnerable enough to hold space or hold somebody else's stuff for a little bit. And I don't want to get too much off on a tangent of the esoteric aspects of it, but once we dive down into them enough, you understand that they're both, each one is necessary for the other to exist. Just like a lot of things in the tradition that I study, you know, those paradoxes are there for a reason, and they're actually two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, that's helpful. I'm curious because I've taken some of your workshops on this topic, right? And so there's a performative aspect that I know I always have to, it's like, okay, here we go, I'm gonna do this, right? There's a shyness that I have to kind of overcome in order to be in that performative space. And I just wonder if you'd speak to it. I know that it's been helpful for me, but what's the benefit of doing this? What's the benefit of learning to work with these energies? What's the benefit of learning to inhabit your erotic performance? Yeah, just speak a little bit to what you've noticed.
Well, one of the things that I notice when I'm paying attention to my penetrative and receptive energy, and also allowing myself to be the exhibitionist or the voyeur, inhabit either one of those roles, it really helps with my ease around my own eros, around my own erotic body, around my own sexuality, and my own comfort level with that. And in turn, it boosts my confidence level. It gives me a little shot in the arm. Like, you know, if I'm in a class with 15 or 20 people and I'm suddenly put in the spotlight, not to entertain these folks, but to really express something that feels real to me, and trust that they're going to receive that in a way that honors that and respects that, and then to actually have that happen, it's a tremendous gift to my, not just my ego, right, but also to my self-confidence and my self-awareness, and the stories that I tell myself around what's okay and what's not okay. You know, if I have some wacky idea of, or what I think is a wacky idea of what my erotic experience is, and I take the chance to share that with somebody else, I'm always going to be better off for it.
Yeah, it's definitely been my experience of that there is something really special about having the parts of you that you maybe feel a little bit shy about or even feel shame about, having them witnessed. It's magic. Like there's some kind of magical transformation that happens when it's witnessed compassionately, humanely, lovingly, acceptingly, right? It's a game changer. I want
And one
to, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, and one more thing is that it also invites that playful aspect that you were talking about back into what we normally take very, a lot of times for many people, Eros and sex can be this very serious thing. It's supposed to be this very earnest and heartfelt thing, and with so much emotion and passion and drama, and when you perform it, it gives it a little bit of playfulness and light, and you don't have to take it so seriously. You can pick it up and put it down and play around with it and let things out and take them back, and just it gives us an opportunity to shine. And then when we're not only witnessed in that, but then celebrated and applauded for it, it can be a huge, you just leave kind of like floating, like, wow, I was a star on that stage for just a minute, you know.
One of the things that I've noticed in participating in these experiences is that there's my own edge around performing, right? And the benefit that I've gained as a performer, as a super shy human, right? And then bringing it and having it celebrated and applauded, as you said. There's also been benefit around witnessing and watching others bring their performance and watching other people get vulnerable. And I just wonder if you'd touch a little bit on that, of what you see of the benefits of getting to be allowed to watch.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, just like I was talking about before, those two aspects of penetrative and receptive being necessary for the other to exist, I think that the same holds true for the exhibitionist and the voyeur, right? They're both a little bit taboo in our minds and in mainstream culture, particularly the voyeur part. We have all the stigma around like peeping toms and watching somebody without them knowing that you're watching. And when you're invited to do that and given permission to do that, and not only given permission to do that, but then further invited to play with the idea of allowing that to fuel your arousal, it can be tremendously freeing, because suddenly there's this implied what I can't think of a good word. There's this implied okayness, like it's okay to do this. I have permission to do this. It gives folks this kind of titillating effervescence to the way that they can begin to think about consciously engaging in the act of viewing, in the act of witnessing, and also in the act of celebrating and supporting somebody else in their expression of their erotic performance. It's way different than just consuming something like porn or watching a performance. Like, you actually, if you think about it, you actually start to actively engage when you are a voyeur. There's something about that energetic exchange that's subtle, but it's very, very powerful. And when we move into that, it gives us the opportunity to also open ourselves up in a deeper way and become more vulnerable, not only with ourselves, but with the people who we are engaging with, who we're witnessing and supporting in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're talking about what happens when we receive consent for all of us, right? And I'm just thinking about the people who I've been in your workshops with, and getting to watch their performances, and how I would characterize it is that what I receive from watching someone else be in their erotic performance and push their own erotic edges is permission for me to do the same thing, right? To do it bigger in my life, and also like community and support around doing it, of that it's not just like I'm not an exhibitionist, right? And so the support that I've received and the somatic learning that I've received in those courses has just been really powerful in helping me really fully inhabit who I am erotically. So First of all,
Mhm.
grateful to you. Second of all, want to invite folks because you're going to be teaching the complete course. You've been doing a number of workshops for Wellcelium, and you're going to be teaching an extended course coming soon. And invite folks to that. That it's. Do you want to say a little bit about it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it. I feel like I've been teaching, these little 2-hour chunks, and particularly in the mini version of performing Eros, where we explore all of these concepts that we've been talking about. We move through them so quickly that I think a lot of folks get lost. And this is an opportunity to really dive deeply into our subtle energy bodies, to boost to give to offer a foundational uh, to offer foundational tools, so that when you are getting ready to offer yourself, you've had a little bit of time to think about it. You're set up for success. You don't all the little niggly things of like, is my lighting okay? What am I going to do? What is performance? How long does it have to be? All of that stuff is already taken care of. So you can hit the ground running, and even if it shifts in the middle of what it is you're offering, it's okay. Like, you feel super confident going into it. So that's from the performative aspect. And then we also dive really deeply into some of the muck of what it means to be a voyeur, and why it feels so taboo, and what we can actually gain from watching, and not just watching, but then like exchanging those energies back and forth, because there are penetrative aspects to voyeurism, as well as receptive aspects to being an exhibitionist. I mean, part of the reason that we want to be on display, part of the reason that we want to perform, or we have that pull towards exhibiting ourselves, is for the adulation or the response that we receive too. So
Some of us have that pull, and some of us have to cultivate that pull.
right,
Right.
and then
Well,
we just get to play with it.
yeah, and I just really want to invite folks, like, if this feels edgy to you, like, well, yeah, it is edgy, and it's
Right,
also
yeah, I was
liberating, and you are such a gentle facilitator. You don't, you're very respectful and consensual, and
yeah, and there's no, and I will say this a million times through the course, there's no right way to explore this. There's your way. And I think that that's sometimes the hardest hurdle for many of us to get over, is like, when the teacher says, there you get permission to do this however feels good to you. One of the things I was just about to say, though, is, as I was talking, if you felt your butthole clench up and your stomach get really tight, this might be a really good course for you to come and explore.
completely. Completely. Yeah. Well, I want to direct people to, and we'll put the link in the comments below, but you can also go to wellcelium.org, WELLCELIUM.org, and click on courses, and you will find TT's course there, Performing Eros, the complete course, starting soon. You can register there. So TT, thanks so much for the time today, and really looking forward to stepping more in with you.
Yeah, thank you. I always enjoy spending time with you. So any chance I get is good for me.
Thanks.
Thanks.